Hello, good morning or good afternoon, and welcome to How Shared Services Leaders Become Orchestrators of Value with Workforce Analytics. During today's webinar, we have a fascinating discussion between Soniette Bailey and Bradley Killinger of Sapience Analytics. But before they begin, I'd like to introduce this dashboard to you guys. So on the bottom of your screen, you should see a row of symbols. The question mark on the left is how you can send questions directly to me in the case you have some technical issues. But to interact with our speakers and ask them some great questions, please click on those two text bubbles. And we love questions, so be sure to keep those coming throughout the session. In order to learn more about Bradley and Soniette, definitely click on the Head and Shoulders icon. That way you could connect with them on LinkedIn. And then by clicking on the smiley face, you should be able to send live reactions in the case you hear something you agree with or find interesting during the webinar. And then finally, we have the resource page where there's some great resources, including case studies and white papers from Sapience. So definitely check that out in case you want to learn more. So now that we have learned about the dashboard, I would like to introduce Soniette, who will be kind of moderating today's webinar. Soniette Bailey is the Director of Marketing at Sapience. With more than 20 years experience as a marketing leader, Soniette has led corporate and product marketing efforts for both startups and global organizations. Her background demonstrates high performance and results, impacting sales growth and brand awareness through full cycle marketing strategies and tactics. Her understanding of having the right data insights serves as a great fit with Sapience Analytics, an organization rooted in data insights to improve people, processes, and tools. Well, welcome to the virtual stage, Soniette and Bradley. We're really excited to have you guys. I will now pass it over to you, Soniette. And yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us. We are excited to get to talk to this community today about how shared services leaders become orchestrators of value with workforce analytics. So I am here with Brad Killinger today. As you can see, Brad and I went a little old school right now. You got to love technology. Sometimes we got to figure things out, and thank goodness we could come into our office today. So we are going to be sharing the screen. Good thing we are close, work well together. So very excited about this. So I am really excited to introduce Brad to you, who is the CEO of Sapience Analytics. And Brad is really going to talk to you a bit more about how you can create harmony in some of the complex back office services that you all encounter day in and day out, helping you with how to drive efficiencies, how to lower costs. I think, Brad, you want to just kind of give a little more introduction of yourself and talk about why today, why are we having this conversation today?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Soniette, and hello, everyone. First of all, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for joining us. I know how busy everybody is, and so look, I promise we're going to get through this material in a as quick as fashion as possible. Certainly leaving plenty of time for any questions and answers potentially that you may have at the end of this. I also think you're going to see we've designed some points to try to make this interactive amongst ourselves. So once again, thank you very much for joining, and I look forward to get started. And we're going to start with one of these interactive points right now. Back to you, Sonia.
Yes, let's do that. So before we jump into the actual presentation, we wanted to just learn a little bit more about you, about the audience. So we've got our first polling question up here. How much do you use workforce data to more effectively manage your shared services organization? All the time? You're just getting started? You see the value, but not quite sure how to get started, or it's just not a priority right now. Here, judge-free zone, there's no wrong answer. Just kind of want to get a lay of the land, which I think this first polling question probably gives you some indication into what we're really going to dive into today. So we'll give you a moment to answer the question, and then we will share results and we'll be able to get started.
It's kind of fun seeing these come in at the bottom. 21%.
Right. We're getting a little sneak peek here.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move to the results. All right, so we've got a little over 27% all the time. 54.5% just getting started. Okay, that's great. 18.2%, you see the value, but just not quite sure how to get started. And everyone agrees this is important and a priority. So I think this is a good start, Brad, to help you. Let's dive into the information. So where are we? What are you seeing today in the market?
Absolutely. So, I'm going to talk a little bit, we'll get a bit more specific, but let me just back us up a little bit. So, Sapience Analytics, we're one of the leaders in this rapidly growing space of workforce analytics. One of the fascinating things that we've seen across our global customer base has been a series of kind of modern workplace labor trends that are happening. I'm sure all of you in this meeting, you've heard of these in the past, but what I would say is a couple fold. One is, look, on top of your usual stress and pressure, of your role of delivering, whatever your shared services is, this is certainly causing, a lot of, ripple effects in this labor market as it continues to transform. It no longer is something that we can kind of hope resolves itself. It's something that's really commanding our attention. And so, just to take away, some of the more recent stuff that you guys or everyone probably would have seen inside of the press. I mean, whether it's return to office and kind of the anxiety that that's causing, early quitting on Fridays, reports that are saying productivity is declining at its fastest rate in 75 years. You've heard of things of bare minimum Mondays where, again, revolt to return to office type stuff, employees quiet quitting, moonlighting, i.e. taking on second jobs, while still working for you, and by the way, even trying to understand what the satisfaction of employees are when they're working at home or remote environment, et cetera. A lot of this is really, coming together, and it's coming together in such a way that, I look at the world and kind of just go, your role is only going to get harder as orchestrators of value. Obviously that value orchestration starts with having a healthy and robust team that can execute those plans. And so, the argument we're going to make is, you have an answer that's easily sitting in front of you that can tackle many of these challenges and more. And so let's kind of dive into that a little bit deeper. So sticking to this theme, if you look at the key objective of the, short time we're going to spend together today is, I want to help you understand how, many of our customers around the world are harvesting their own data to deliver, highly transformational results for your shared services organization. So let's dive into some of the more specifics behind this. So, as we look out into, our customer base, I kind of, put the major 4 business challenges into 4 kind of simple buckets. The first one is kind of what I would call this modern workplace. So, how do you as leaders make a decision about working from office, about working remotely permanently, about having a hybrid model? And how do you think through this? And so, to me, big challenge, but by the way, has amazing consequences potentially. Some of the data that we're seeing is, over 60% of employees, for example, would take a 25% reduction in pay to have a more flexible work arrangement. And so, there are, signals after signals of this, or examples after examples. Secondly, we type to look at is around kind of environment. So regardless of where you're working from, do you have a proper handle? One of the things that's happened since the pandemic are these, continued indicators that, employees are, their wellness, their work-life balance, they are getting burnt out, they're working too hard. and that's causing a significant attrition turn, which is very expensive for a company. Third chip part is, really around performance. So, how is it in this kind of new modern workplace, on top of where you work from and, are people burning out? Do you really get a handle around, hey, what's my team? What does our workday visibility look like? What do people work on? Do our managers have the right tools and skills to be able to effectively manage this new generation? And then fourth is really around talent. And so, are you putting in, these other pillars where you're really, realistically able to, retain people while doing that with cost, in the forefront, adhering to policies, so on and so forth. So if we go on to the next slide, which I think you're going to get another interactive question here.
You are. So we thought it would be good at this point to really understand, what are you dealing with within your own function? So what is a key challenge within your shared services organization today? These are just a few that we've listed. So, embracing digital transformation, alignment on the value of shared services, attracting and retaining talent, identifying ways to reduce costs. Maybe it's all of them, maybe it's some others that we don't have listed here, but share with us, we talked about market challenges and what businesses are going through today. We want to know, what are you really enduring, not only to try to cope with a lot of these market challenges that are happening, but just what's going on in your own function today. Give just a little more time. We have got the responses trickling in here. Okay, let's share the results here. So, key challenges in your organization. A little over 14% is about embracing digital transformation, alignment of the value of shared services. So that's good. That means that the company's leaders are seeing the value there. Again, a little over 14% about attracting and retaining talent. Definitely seems to be a trend, I think, that we're hearing and seeing a lot today. Identifying ways to reduce costs. All of the above, 50%. So there you go, Brad. I mean, this is obviously talking more about, how workforce data can help in some of these elements is going to be very beneficial to the group today.
100%. No, thank you. And thank you for your participation again. So, through the use of harvesting your own data, I guess, before I dive into what those use cases are, I would ask yourselves about, how much more effective would you be running your shared services organization? I mean, for example, do you know the portion of your workforce that's ineffective versus your top performers? And one of the key takeaways we often see is the answer is no. Managers think they know, but when they see their data, it's quite a bit different. Do you know, is the right work being prioritized? Do you have the data you need to create, the right policies for a modern workforce? Do you know the percentage of your staff who, may be likely to resign? Do you know, do you have the right workplace controls or that may be necessary? Do you know, probably one of the biggest questions that we see when we work with shared services teams is, do you know your capacity? And by the way, do you have a way to be able to communicate that capacity effectively to your stakeholders across the organization in an unbiased way? And, so I look at these as just some examples of areas, would this be more valuable to you if you had this kind of at your fingertips to be able to, to bring up at a moment's notice? Mm-hmm. So that brings us over and not trying to make I'd say a plug for Sapience, but what I would tell you is that, companies like ours that have an automated way to help you harvest your data, we do this in two very interesting ways. One is the reality is across the enterprise workforce right now, almost 35 or roughly 35% of your workforce is contingent labor. And so what our data has found is there's a much more effective way to be able to, help manage that external labor. So whether that's, aligning simple things like saving money through aligning invoices to actuals, to really, even being able to understand where may you have, excess capacity, how do you get optimal negotiations when you bring this critical element into your business? How do you streamline or improve your procure to pay process, et cetera? And then when you get over onto, the enterprise side or your, more direct employees is again, very similar, areas of value, which is, how do you get that transparency? How do you understand, how, what your teams are doing? How do you implement the right go forward, go to market models? How do you understand what your capacity is and where you have opportunities, potentially to save money or potentially, to expand and provide more services, et cetera. So, we think of the problem in a very similar way, single platform, but we also have two different approaches to really try to help companies, to distinguish between their two, major sources of labor.
Okay.
And so I think one of the areas that I would, take everybody through, and obviously it's often hard to, I'd say bring screenshots and make them come to life inside of a PowerPoint, but imagine at your fingertips of having, daily reports where, without any human intervention, in 100% automated way that, for example, you can, easily look on and be able to see, hey, which of my departments or which of my teams are, are most effective for a return to office or, can do a hybrid or kind of remote model. Imagine being able to, pull up these actual reports that will show, how are your teams performing between these different sites? You can see, are there, do they work differently? Are there different activities? Are there, can they handle, are they more productive in a, at home, in the office, et cetera? Mm-hmm. I mean, this sort of stuff right at your fingertips to answer really big questions that, are otherwise just being made, based upon kind of gut feel. Some more examples. I mean, think about, I'm sure many of you out here on the call today, you have teams that are really struggling with, working too much. And so, and you probably have teams that are underutilized. And so, I look at it through two ways, which one is how do you get leading indicators to workforce stress so that you can be proactive so that it's not something that's going to cost you 30 days, 60, 90, 6 months from now. But the other part is really about workload balancing. And without having the right data to understand, do you have the proper mechanisms to get the work to the right people at the right time? Again, trying to find that right, load balancing and workforce stress metrics between, this is possible to be at your fingertips on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. The next example of where I would go is one of my favorites. So look, not only am I talking to you about this, but I am CEO of a global high growth software company, and we drink our own champagne and we leverage this data in a really super productive way. One of the first reports I look at every Monday when I come in is around weekend working and trying to make a correlation. We know through our data with certainty that there's a high correlation between people that are weekend working, burnout, and ultimately attriting from your company. And so really having that capability to understand. I mean, it's one thing if it's a one-time event, where you have where it's the end of a sprint or you had some push that had to be made. But if you start seeing this consistently, having this data to be able to be proactive, to take proactive measures is hugely helpful as you try to run a business. Move on. Beyond that, I would tell you across our customer base, there are just kind of magical ways that our customers are driving significant value out of harvesting and leveraging their own data, whether that's around skills alignments, whether it's coming up with next generation business metrics, KPIs, benchmarking, finding your next generation, automation opportunities, getting a team more focused around the core work that's really going to have the largest impact in terms of your productivity and output as a business, around arming leaders and managers with, unbiased data to be able to really make, clear data-driven decisions. And it's really around this, paradigm of moving away from gut-based decisions into, becoming a true data-driven decision-making organization. Software utilization. What you find across many of these teams is we are all oversubscribed to software. So understanding what people are using and systems that aren't, HR policy creation, adherence, project predictability, training and development is, one. Imagine if you think of your organization as your top 20%, middle 60 and bottom 20. Your goal should always be to try to get the middle 60 up to being performing like your top 20. Having the data and understand what those people are doing that is so magical is, a huge basis for the training that you probably want to get to the rest of your team. Capacity management is a huge area, compliance, attrition risk we've talked about, health and wellness, work location, and being able to at least have factual stances around those decisions being made, are just some of the areas, but areas of what I would say are huge transformative value, and goes back to kind of where we started this, podcast around, or, this session around, everybody on here becoming, these, orchestrators of value. It is all possible. And these are frankly pretty big, items that, we're seeing a lot of companies now starting to be able to take data to really get on realistic paths to solve these issues.
I think it's good also that you're showing how a lot of this addresses the challenges that the group has shared they're having within their own shared services function.
Yeah, and as we go out and participate in these, those key themes and challenges are the same.
Yeah.
And from my point of view is can we solve every element of it? No, but certainly, we are an easy button in terms of a solution that sure can get you a long ways along the way. And so, the key takeaways we take away, and before we dive into a QA session, is one is if you're not, and I'm really encouraged from the opening poll that so many of you are either starting the journey or trying to figure out how to get on a journey to leverage workforce analytics. I promise you, leveraging your data as a strategic asset will shape the future of your shared services organization. And it will, bring breathtaking type results to you, and also get you in a much stronger, better data-driven decisioning type organization. And, the second part is I'll do a shameless little, push for ourselves. But look, if you're on the fence or trying to figure out how to start, please, we love working with customers. I'd be happy to offer anybody on here a free assessment where our team can, come out and help you understand, some of the areas that are possible and the impact that potentially leveraging this sort of workforce analytics could have on your organization.
Great. I think that's a really good point. I think considering that a number of the attendees here today are getting started, can you maybe dive a little bit more into what does that look like? So if someone did want to learn more, get an assessment of just what their environment is looking like, what would that look like today?
Well, so it's pretty easy process for people to get started. I think one is we tend to obviously give kind of a demonstration of what we do, and then we would have conversations around kind of what the goals and objectives are, and that usually leads itself to about a 30-day pilot. So we tend to move really quickly. out of slideware and would prefer to let you start seeing your own data and let you start understanding the types of conclusions that are possible and the types of, transformation and steps and actions that can be taken. And so that's usually a 30 to 45-day process if that all makes sense. And then, by the way, I'd also just say that, from a system perspective, if the decision is, hey, this is really great and we want to go forward, this is about a 2-week implementation to go live for an entire enterprise. So we have really done a great job of kind of developing the easy button, and we want to make that experience very easy. This isn't about, our core expertise is collecting unbiased third-party data out of your organization for you and to produce, very usable, actionable insights. We do that extremely well, and we do that in a way that, is very user-friendly. We want you to be more focused, or our customers be more focused on, understanding the data and the insights and being able to make decisions off of that than the art of collecting data and some of the other things we do. So it's really easy. This is not like probably 10 years ago that, would have been a year-long systems integration project that, is awfully expensive.
Yeah. Okay, we've got some good questions coming in. Please continue to send your questions in. Brad, maybe talk a little bit about how do you build the business case for using workforce analytics?
Oh, I think that's probably the easiest part.
Okay.
So I'm willing to, let's just say we have not been to a customer yet to where either, there's usually several conditions. So, first, that's an easy case to be made if there's some sort of capacity adjustment. So if there's excess capacity, which is generally the case in an organization. Secondly is, the cost of attrition and trying to rehire, et cetera, has become extremely expensive for most enterprises in this day and age. And so, as a practical means, we have a very sound way of helping companies understand that and prevent that. And so that produces a very easy ROI. If you look on our contingent workforce side, we see anywhere between 35 to 50% delta between invoices to actuals. And so there's usually a very large ROI that exists around that. I look at, we often look a lot about, where employees, are giving you 8 hours a day, but they're giving you the wrong 8 hours a day.
Right.
So being able to understand this and being able to get people more geared towards, increased hours and, of core work and other more productive things, you will see a huge uptick in terms of output. And so, look, I would say for us that, the value of this, and by the way, the final piece is, I hear from CEO after CEO that there is, just a lot of consternation. Regardless, we don't have a position. We don't particularly care if a company is fully hybrid, fully remote, come to the office. But, what I hear all the time is that, look, senior executives want accountability and employees want flexibility. And we can bridge that gap by showing that it is possible, or maybe it's not. But having, that in and of itself is worth, a lot of money, because, by the way, if you can reduce, your own commercial real estate footprint, the latest report I saw is, that is a, firm $11,000 per employee type decision annually that's being made. To make some of these. So there's some real hard dollar benefits, but ROI is generally it's just not a challenge. I mean, there's so many areas that can be addressed in very short order. That's not it. I think the bigger question around, of getting the buy-in of the value is ultimately, being able to be very deliberate in terms of, you're buying this to solve what, so that you're very clear in the purpose of what you're doing. And we tend to spend a lot of time with our customers also being clear around the communication of that. And that's a very important step, for us, in that transparency about, hey, we're using this type of technology, and here's the type of data, and here's why we're going to, leverage this data.
Yeah.
And so anyways, that's usually where those buy-ins come in.
Wonderful. Next, if you could maybe provide a little bit more of an understanding on how the product interacts with various ERPs and industry-specific systems that may be in place. Does there need to be a centralized data warehouse in place first?
No, there does not. So we can interact with a lot of different systems, if we want to, integrate in and potentially pull that into what we're doing. But, if you look at a company like Sapience, what we're doing is interesting. We have a small little IoT, one-way collector, which is, going to transmit in kind of 15-second increments of activity that's happening inside of the, organization. By the way, and I encourage you, because we won't have time here to talk about it, but, we never capture private information. That's not our purpose. We don't care if somebody goes and pays a bill at the bank or goes to Facebook. We are looking for work information or work data that is coming off. So when somebody is doing something that, working in PowerPoint, working in Excel, working in your ERP system, that then is transmitted into our system. And then, we have a complex BI platform on the back that then is going to help visualize and extract all of those insights for you to be able to get the types of insights that we, went through a few slides ago.
Right. Great. Thank you. Another question. How do you get employees to buy into the value of having workforce analytics in their work lives? So great question. And, I would say a couple things. So, one is employees embrace this. So look, the only noise you're going to get are going to be from your bottom performers, which you can argue if they should be there or if they're savable or not. But the reality is, your top 20%, they know that they're doing a great job, and they love the fact that there's an alternative path for them to get that recognition. The middle 60% loves this data. I like to refer to it as a Fitbit for work because this data is two-way. It's completely transparent. There's nothing secret going on here. And so having a understanding of, hey, this is where I spend my time, and this is where management wants me to spend my time, and being able to have, kind of a common factual based relationship is extremely powerful. And so, I would tell you that across, our extensive enterprise accounts, that, employee satisfaction through the use of this tool is extremely high. So there is I would say, an initial resistance, as there is, anytime, like, wait, they're gonna what? Yeah.
And then when they find out what this really is, and that, this isn't about understanding if it's almost the holiday season, and Soniette went to Amazon to buy a present, like, who cares? And that's not what we're looking for, or helping companies understand. This is really about when they're working, what are they doing, how are they doing it, where are they doing it? And I would just say one other part is that the vast majority of employees that we've talked to and gladly will understand the concept that, look, they want flexibility. They understand their employer wanting accountability.
Yeah.
What we do silently in the background, producing or helping you harvest two-way data is way different. I mean, I've literally had people come to me during the pandemic, and even now with some of these remote hybrid models, saying, our managers asked us to dial into a Zoom for the entire day so that they can pop on the Zoom when they want. And you look and go, wait a second. Yeah. Like, to me, that feels quite intrusive.
There's a better way.
Yeah, there's a way better way, and a much cheaper way, and a much everything else. So hopefully that answers it.
Yes. And if I could add to that, coming from another perspective, I am an employee here, and I will say, yes, in the beginning, it's very top of mind, but now I just do my job. I work. It's not something that I'm constantly thinking about, but also it does give me visibility to how I'm spending my day if I need that kind of information to help me organize and structure better. So there's definitely advantages to it, and someone may find the negative, but I think there is an appropriate way that companies can roll it out and make the employees feel comfortable and
very much,
it.
and we've proven that. I mean, we have almost 380,000 active seats around the world. So.
So another question that came in: how are you measuring productivity? Is this monitoring how people are logged in?
I'm not sure I get the question. So let me try to answer this. So how we monitor or measure productivity is really kind of twofold. One is the input. So we collect the work effort data, and then when we I mentioned a little bit earlier about we have an integration framework that enables us to bring in output data, and then we can mirror that together. So ultimately that productivity of understanding this type of input created this type of output, or the input output correlations is something that we do. And that's ultimately how we think about productivity. What I would also say is that probably every company we deal has a little different definition of productivity, which is what I also think makes, the flexibility that we have with having our own visualization and business intelligence layer on the back of this is, super helpful, because, it enables everybody to really see their data their way and understand, in the way that they want to understand it.
Okay. So do employees have to input information for the analysis?
No.
Okay.
No. So the only time, the beautiful thing about what we do, at least, is it's 100% automated. There is actually there's no required employee input at all in our system.
Yeah, great. Well, we had some really good questions come in. Yes, thank you so much. So again, we encourage everyone, connect with us on LinkedIn, but more importantly, you're just getting started. You don't have to be alone in this effort, in this journey. And we're here to help. We've worked with many customers across many different industries, proven results as you've shared today. So, we're happy to continue the conversation and work with you or answer any additional questions that you may have around your specific business environment. Brad, anything else you want to close with?
I just want to say thank you so much. I know everybody is running a million miles an hour, and so really appreciate you carving out some time, and hopefully maybe you snack down a sandwich or something in between. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. You'll find we're a really low pressure, high value company, and ultimately would love to help you on that journey. So thank you all for the opportunity and for listening to us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sonia and Brad. That was a great presentation, and I really appreciate your time. As I said, you could click on their speaker bio tab to access their LinkedIn profiles if you want to reach out. And also that resource tab there, go ahead and click on that if you'd like to access the Sapience website and give that a look through. But other than that, that is all today. So thank you everyone who attended, and thank you, Sonia and Brad, for being with us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it all.
Bye.
Bye.